It's your birthday! And you've committed a horrible crime against humanity. But it's time for your party! But you also must be punished. So, it looks like we're going to be having a punishment party. An omnibus, also known as a VA or a compilation, is a collection of songs from several or many different artists, usually put together by a record label to provide an overview of the kind of bands they represent. I love these things. They make it easy to discover new music because if one features a band you already know you like, it probably also features a band you don't know you like yet. There are quite a few well-known omnibus series in the world of indie VK like Shock Edge, New Age Culture, Decadence, and Prelude, all of which feature a great cross-section of bands who were active during the golden age of the genre in the early 2000s. Some older omnibuses feature appearances by bands who would later become legendary like Brain Trash featuring Mami's Misère, Behind the Mask featuring Earl Grey, and Shikoku Symphony featuring Plastic Tree. And then there is Punishment Party. Punishment Party is an interesting historical artifact from a time when the VK boom was sort of imploding on itself and the market for this kind of music was pretty much saturated. What is it? Well, it's an omnibus series produced by VB Records. Oh, surely you've heard of VB Records. No? Well, prepare to be impressed. Here's their entire release catalog. Punishment Party 1, Punishment Party 2, Punishment Party 3, Punishment Party 4, and Laughin' Nose. No, just kidding, Punishment Party 5. And unlike the other artist compilations I mentioned before, you won't recognize many names on these track lists. There wasn't a lot of effort put into the design of the covers or the booklets. Actually, there are no booklets, it's just a big folded piece of slick paper which if you unfold, you can find a photo, lyrics, and contact information for each band. Email, addresses, phone numbers. Imagine 16 years ago you could have called up Earl Grey and tried to book them to play at your wedding. Regarding the music, there's a remarkable variation in quality from track to track. A lot of it is middle of the road and immediately forgettable, and a couple of tracks are great, and some of it is bad. And of that bad, some of it is so bad that it's funny, some of it makes you feel like you shouldn't criticize it because they were trying really hard, and some of it is just bad. Of all of the questionable talent floating around in the world of Visual-kei, there's some truly bottom-of-the-barrel stuff on here. The variation in production is really noticeable too. This isn't like all of the modern VK compilations where they have all the artists come into the studio to do sessions with the same producers and engineers. These are more like mass-produced mix CDs. I don't usually mind lo-fi or low-quality recordings, but some of these recordings are so cheap that they make Key Party sound like Universal. But some of the bands are actually pretty cool, or at least interesting enough to give special mention to, so here are some of the highlights starting from Volume 1 up to Volume 5. Beyond the Solitude do an above-average pop-rock song with great guitar leads, kind of like Fanatic Crisis. Animist are a sort of cool drum machine-based goth thrash band. One track sounds like Speed ID, another is a hilarious attempt at telling a scary story about dying in hellfire. It's hard to explain just what's so funny about it, but there's just this haunted hayride sort of a vibe that makes me laugh.
突然炎に包まれた10月8日焼けた体が痛くてかゆい10月5日起きられずにずっと寝ていた10月6日
Murkuro, which I really wish was pronounced Murkuro, which would mean pitch black, and, that would be cool, but they didn't do it that way, are really only noteworthy for having 3 tracks on Volume 1 and 1 more on Volume 2. They're sort of a dissonant lo-fi goth band with a drum machine. The singer is from a band called Jigoku-e, which is a darker, kind of heavier, and arguably better Angura-kei kind of a band. Earl Grey are pretty average for Machina, but they sound outstanding among these other bands. It's obvious they're a little more talented and professional than a lot of the other guys featured here on these compilations. It's almost not fair to compare them. There's nothing quaint or laughable, there's good variation between the different parts of the song, while still adhering to an overall theme, and the chorus is genuinely catchy. Bliss have a great vocalist with a voice like a bright spring afternoon. He's comparable to Yasu from Jeanne d'Arc or Tsuyoshi from Missing Tear, sort of like that. The song on the compilation, Mary, is good, peppy, straightforward rock. I'd love to hear more from these guys. Now, Lamia, I kind of love. These guys used to be on Key Party at the same time as Kagura, back when they were called Crow. Their songs just ooze the same kind of old-school goth VK charm as bands like Madeth Grail, but they're a lot less well-known and therefore a little more rare and mysterious. I'd recommend seeking out more of their material if you're a fan of Machina or Salil-type stuff. It's derivative enough to be instantly recognizable, but interesting enough to keep from being boring. The bass player is now an Amura and Munimuni as well, and I don't know how much songwriting he does, but I definitely hear some similar tone and influence across all 3 of those bands. Undead Seraph are interesting. The song that they do here has kind of a neo-Showa kind of vibe, and it's cool to hear a female vocalist doing that straightforward Machina-kei junior high schooler singing karaoke type vocal. Actually, the whole band is female. I can't find much information about them, which is a shame because they look and sound pretty cool. Okay, kilter, which looks like off-kilter or silter, is actually supposed to be pronounced shelter, are a lo-fi band with a drum machine, like a couple of the others. But here they're doing a slow-burning VK ballad that breaks out into a run at about the 3 minutes 20 seconds mark. It's actually a great song. The atmosphere and structure remind me of Asagi-era Syndrome. I'd be interested to hear more from these guys, too. Glass Moons sound just like early indies Larkon Shield, from the songwriting to the recording quality to everything else. Arc-gnol, whatever, are weird. Kind of like Jinkaku Reigio in a way, but also kind of like... Did you ever hear of a band called Bishop in the early 2000s? They had the same weird, distorted synth guitar sound, and the recordings I heard were the same kind of low quality. It's kind of a mess. When all of the elements of the song come together, it becomes the audio equivalent of that drink we all made as kids at fast food restaurants where we mixed all the sodas at the fountain together. At the 34 seconds mark, it's that first sip of that drink where your initial reaction is like, but you made that shit and damn it, you're gonna drink it. And as you keep ingesting it, you kind of get used to it and it almost becomes sort of not terrible. Rapunzel's guitarist is of well above average talent, kind of like shred metalish in technique and tone, and the song is catchy once you make it to the chorus. Fugue's track is fantastic, especially in this company. It's a well-written, Hizaki-esque neoclassical thing that's well played and well recorded. Objectively, this is probably the best track across all 5 discs of these compilations. Gekko, I think it's red, are pretty cool dark VK pop in the same vein as After Effect or Shiver, and there's this really great breakdown at 2 minutes and 48 seconds. Cynical Biscuit are also kind of catchy, dark pop rock, which is betrayed by their having one of the worst names I've ever heard for a band. This same song also appears on Loop Ash Records' Loop of Life omnibus, and the band's vocalist was also in Mask eventually, so I guess Michiru headhunted him. One of their guitarists would eventually go on to play bass for Moran. Aikaryu appear on a couple of these collections in their earliest incarnation. If you're not familiar with them, they were a goth metal-flavored VK band that eventually became one of those pirate bands around 2003 or 2004 when everyone was suddenly and inexplicably interested in pirates. Remember Seven Seas? Anyway, the band seemed like they had a lot of skill for playing, but not necessarily for writing catchy songs, and the singer was off-puttingly average even for VK, which the technical guitar work only drew more attention to. Not my thing, but I can see why somebody might have been interested in them. Some of the band members were injured in a car accident about 10 years ago, after which they disbanded and the guitarist Teru joined Versailles. Turn A isle is not equal to DE by the function sigma U, but it is equal to a decent enough Machina-style VK band. Nothing mind-blowing, but you take what you can get when you're having a punishment party. Okay, capital A-L, little I, apostrophe Z-E, Miss Ra, apostrophe Ills track begins with a couple of unpleasant girls talking with a sullen and uninterested doctor about why they want to have cosmetic surgery. And it turns into a bouncy, thrash punk story about giving them drugs and rearranging their bodies and faces. This is why we love VK. Parricide are like a really low-budget Hisaki-era sulfuric acid, surprisingly catchy and fun despite the recording and mediocre singer. Lucid Brain, I guess that's what that's supposed to be, do a kind of cool, vaguely Japanesque, upbeat pop song. The singer has a unique and memorable voice, and I think it's one of the most outstanding and different sort of tracks across all 5 discs. Variable Messiah's track sounds like Marilyn Manson's The Fight song performed with a teenage vocalist. I think they were a Starwave Records band, and that's the only other thing I can think of to say about them. Mezeliha are quite cheeky and bluesy, and this is one of the more fun songs on disc 5, which is easily the worst disc so far. I might just be getting tired of all of the punishment.
で何も言わないで僕のものになるよ激しくあなたを求めてねえそう問い合わせよ君の中に僕は激しく求めて
The last band I'd really like to mention is Solgage, who are kind of adorable in a way. A lot of the other bands on this thing either have professionally designed logos and images, or the logos are just generic typefaces, but look at Solgage's. Which member do you think drew that on notebook paper and scanned it into Photoshop? Do you think he intended it to look like Trogdor? Well, I hope you've enjoyed this look at a kind of unique and obscure omnibus series. If you're interested in more Visual-kei reviews and stuff in the future, please give this video a like, and I'll continue rooting through my collection for more interesting artifacts to present. Thank you for watching, and until next time, Sakura no ki no shita de shizuka ni nemuro.